here today to demonstrate how easy it is to perform an electrotelluric recording in the field. Now, we're going to pretend that we're in the field and that we've arrived at the well site. The first thing you want to do is to put the equipment flat on the ground in a near level position. Open up the equipment case, and the equipment comes shipped with recording instructions. So there is a quick start recording sheet, and there's also more detailed information on how to make a recording. And this will be paperwork that's included with the equipment. Now, as you see, there are only two pieces of equipment. The first piece is the electrotelluric receiver itself, and the second piece of equipment is the digital recorder. And this is a compact flash recorder, all solid state. And to make a recording, the first thing we want to do is go to the electrotelluric receiver and turn the switch from off to on. When you do that, a single red light will flash and go out. That tells you that the batteries in the electrotelluric sensor are good. And to turn the digital recorder on, there is a power switch on the right side panel. And when we turn it on, you'll notice in the display window that it will go through a loading sequence and then give you a two-line display. The upper line tells you how many recordings are on this card. In this case, it's a brand new card with no recordings. And it'll also tell you what the remaining time is on the card. This card is good for 1 hour and 50 minutes. Now, to turn the digital recorder on or begin the recording process, there are only three buttons you need to be concerned about. The record pause button in the middle, the record button on the left, and the stop button on the right. To physically begin the recording, you press the record pause button first. Depress it one time. When you do so, you'll notice that the digital display changes. The upper line now tells you the current recording number. This will be recording number 001. And the lower line tells you how much recording is on the card. Well, it's 0 for the moment. And when we begin recording, you'll see that this will click off the recording time. An important thing that you want to do is to make sure that you have signal coming into the recorder. And there are two ways to do that. The first way is to look at the record level lights on the front side panel. You'll notice that there are 3 or 4 green lights on the front panel. These lights tell you that you have recording signal coming into the recorder. A second way to test the recording signal is to turn the volume up on the speaker. And you'll hear a static sound. That static sound is coming from the electrotelluric sensor. So that tells you you have signal coming in. Now, if for any reason you have no signal coming in, you will not have any green lights, or perhaps you'll only have 1 or 2 green lights. So I'm going to turn the the electrotelluric sensor off for a second, and you'll notice that the green lights will go completely out. So if there's no signal coming into the recorder, you'll have no green lights. When I turn it back on again, you'll see that the green lights reappear. So there are two ways to check to make sure that's taking place. Now, we're still in the record pause mode. The current recording number is 001, and to actually begin the physical recording, you press the record button one time. And what you'll notice now is that the timer is beginning to move, and we are now physically making our first recording. And all you simply do is keep an eye on that timer or your wristwatch, and when it gets to 5 minutes, then you simply press the stop button. And we have finished making our first recording. When you press the stop button, you'll notice that it goes back into the original mode. It tells you how many recordings are on the recorder and what the remaining time is on the memory card. At this point, you simply leave the power on to both pieces of equipment. You can close it up and you're ready to go to the next recording.
Okay.
Alright, once you get your first recorded started, then there's a little bit of paperwork that we'd like to fill out. And with the unit, we send a field log sheet. And this field log sheet is a way of keeping ourselves organized as to which recordings match up as you make them. Now, on a demonstration, the first recording in the field, of course, will be your calibration well. And as we're making our first recording, once you've pressed the record button, take a note of what the recording number is just to verify. In this case, it's 001. And as the recording is being made, it's a good opportunity to fill out the paperwork. And on the paperwork, you can put information about who you are and where you are. And then go to the 001, which is the first recording on this sheet. This sheet has space for 22 recordings, and so the card will hold 22 5-minute recordings. Just verify that the recording number shown on the digital recorder during the recording process, while it's recording, matches the paperwork. So you go to 001. In the next column, I'd like you to go ahead and just put your wristwatch time at the beginning of the recording. And that'll be consistent. It'll help me keep track later on because time and date are recorded onto the recorder. The third location or column is the location name. Just write the name of the well, or you can just write well A, whatever way you want to identify the location. And then Kelly bushing and ground level information. And the last column, the next column would be, is it a calibration or a station? Now, in a demonstration, the first recording will be a calibration, but then subsequent recordings will be test sites, so we'll just circle station on those. And the last column is environmental. What are the sky conditions like? Is it dark cloudy, or is it cloudy, or is it clear? What's the wind condition like? Is it strong, medium, or light? And what are the ground conditions like? Is it saturated and muddy? Is it wet, or is it dry? Just circle one of those. Now that'll give me back in the office an indication as to what the environmental conditions were like while the recordings were being made. And that's all the paperwork in the field. Here we are back in the office, and actually when you first receive the equipment, there's a couple of procedures that we'd like you to take a look at before you go to the field. When you receive the equipment, go ahead and open it up, and there will be some paperwork here with it. Set that aside for the moment. In the box that you receive, there will be memory cards for the digital recorder. There will be battery packs for the digital recorder. And of course, the two pieces of equipment that you see here would be the electrotelluric receiver and the digital recorder itself. Now, before you go into the field, we do advise that you make sure that you have a full charge on the internal batteries of the electrotelluric receiver. In order to do that, we want to go ahead and just remove the receiver from the case. We'll unplug the cable from the digital recorder, remove the receiver, and we also want to remove the power adapter. Now the power adapter is used to charge the batteries in the electrotelluric receiver. Now this is designed for a 110 volt AC plug. If you're using any other power source, you'll need to use a power adapter. So we take the power adapter here and we plug it into the back of the electrotelluric receiver, into the charge in jack. And then what we'll do is we'll take and plug this into the wall outlet. Once it's plugged in, you go to the control knob. The control knob is a 3-position knob. It's on, off, and charge. And after you've plugged the adapter in, you'll put it into the charge position, and an amber light will come on and will remain glowing during the charging process. The charging process will take 8 to 10 hours for a full charge. So you may want to do this overnight. 11 or 12 hours will not hurt anything, but it's usually fully charged in about 8. And once the charge is completed, you simply turn it off, and the batteries in the electrotelluric receiver are actually good for about 30 hours. So don't worry about that. Simply unplug it from the adapter, replace it into the case. We'll plug the digital recorder cable back into its jack and seat it down into the case. Now the second thing you're going to want to do is you want to put fresh batteries into the digital recorder if needed. Now it does come shipped with fresh batteries, and this comes shipped fully charged, but it's always a good idea to be sure. And in order to change the batteries in the digital recorder,
how do you know when they're needing to be changed?
Well, we'll go ahead and turn it on here for a second. It comes shipped with fresh batteries, and it also comes shipped with a memory card in place. In the lower right hand corner there's a battery status meter, and right now you have fully charged batteries. You'll see there's a couple of dark spots in the image. As the batteries are depleted, these dark spots will begin to disappear, and when the batteries are finally used up, this will begin to blink and the digital recorder will begin to beep. It'll beep for about 30 seconds and then the screen will go black. That means that your batteries are dead. Now, when you change the batteries, there's really no need to change the memory card also, because the memory card will hold 22 recordings. So you simply change the batteries and then start up where you left off. Now in order to change the batteries, we'll go ahead and turn it off and flip it over on the back side. There's a battery compartment door with a couple of little tabs. Depress the tabs and lift up the door. And this is where the batteries are stored, or in the unit. To remove them, you simply pull on the cloth strip and the batteries will come out. To replace the batteries, you take a new box of batteries, and paying attention to the polarity, you'll notice that it tells you there's a plus on the right and minus on the left, and you just match it up with the polarity of the battery and you put them in, and they're opposite. Plus, and then plus goes left on this one, and right again on this one, and then left again on this one. And normally I put the cloth strip in. So to close the door, you simply replace the panel cover and then turn it on to test it to make sure it works properly. And it does. Now, if you need to change the memory card, then you be sure and turn the unit off, and the memory card itself is stored on the front side panel. And this front side panel door will actually hinge down. You grab it on the top and you pull it down and it opens up. And here you'll see the card itself. The eject button is on the right hand side. You have to press it 2 times. You press it all the way once, and then to press it all the way a second time, and it will push the card out. And you take the card and slide it out of the slot. And to replace the memory card with the new one, you simply, with the label up, you slide it in, and it will go in very easily to a certain point, and then you depress it to seat the card, and then simply close the door. And again, to test it to make sure that everything's working properly, you turn it on. It'll go through a loading process.
it'll tell you how many recordings are on the new card and how much remaining time is on the card. And now you're ready to go to the field.